This is James Crow with Lab 2.2 and Cybersecurity 503. Okay, in this lab we're tasked with performing a lateral move-it or a pivoting through the network given user credentials. And so I have these user credentials on my Windows 7 virtual machine over here that I gathered from the last lab. Username test user, password 123456. So first thing I need to do is figure out what ways I can access this machine, assuming that I don't have physical access. So I'm going to run an nmap scan of this machine, and I happen to know that it's .62. So I'm going to run an nmap scan to see what services are running and what ports are available to try to get into. So I'm going to let that run, and I'll be right back. My nmap scan of the Windows 7 box has completed, and it looks like I have SSH open, and I also have RCC as well as some other services. But I'm going to focus on these two and cross my fingers that that this user has access to one of those. So let's try SSH first. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And sure enough, I have SSH access to this box. Who am I? Okay, so I'm logged into that as test user. Let's see. RDP was also available, so I'm going to use the Linux RDP client called Remina, and I've already set up my RDP session here. You can see I've got my user, my password, the domain is the computer name, IP address, basic stuff. So we'll connect. Oh, and what do you know? This user does have RDP access. So let's take a look around and see what we've got. Looks like this company has an intranet located at 10.0.0.10, and it's set to the user's home page. So I think we can probably safely assume that most users within the company have the same home page set. Let's see what else we have. We have looks like a public share here, and that is not on this computer. That is on a Windows 10 computer with a different host name. So that might be a good PC to pivot to. What can we do with this? Okay, since we have a file share on the computer that I want to pivot to, I'm going to use Social Engineering Toolkit to create a payload and listener and just place something out there that might be tempting on that share drive and wait for another user to come along and click it. So for create payload and listener, we'll just do reverse TCP. IP address is a listener. That's the Kali box that I'm working on right now. I'm sorry, we'll just do 4343 for the port. Let that generate a payload. Yes, we'll go ahead and start the listener now. Okay, so I got my listener going. Now what I need to do is put that payload on the Windows 7 box, and we're going to use SCP, which is a secure file copy. Uses the same protocol as SSH, and we already know that the user I have credentials for has access to SSH. So we want to go to the root folder and then a hidden set folder, SET's Social Engineering Toolkit folder in there. ls. Okay, and I see my payload.exe. So what we want to do is scp, and this is the file name we want to copy, the user and IP address we want to copy to, and the remote folder that we want to copy to. So, all right, copied. All right, now let's bring my, there we go, right there. Now, payload seems kind of nefarious, so let's call it pretty screensaver. Okay, now let's copy that to our public share, and then we're just going to wait for somebody to click it. Okay, here I am on my Windows 10 box, and I'm logged in as test admin. I come into work and I just want to take a look at something that I left out on my public share, and hey, look, there's this pretty screensaver thing. So I'm going to double click that. Oh no, nothing happened. Of course, the admin on the Windows 10 machine clicking my pretty screensaver opened up a reverse shell. So looks like session 5, sessions -I for interact 5. All right, and then we want cmd.exe, and bam, Microsoft Windows 10. Who am I? I'm logged in as test admin on that Windows 10 machine. Now, in the interest of transparency, I did have to disable some built-in Windows security features in order to get this to work. So obviously, a mitigating factor would be, turn on your Windows Defender and keep your box up to date in order to avoid this type of attack. And of course, educate your users not to store passwords and in applications, and don't click on odd executables that they find. And that's it.